Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is Ed from Solid Quest. I am also back, hopefully this time for good. I'm back with more board games, more solo board games for you, more content, unboxings, and mainly reviews. We won't be focusing so much on playthroughs this time around. I'm sorry, but hopefully I'll be able to pump out more reviews for you, which hopefully will be useful as well. So today we're starting off and coming back with Maracaibo. Disclaimer here, I was sent a review copy by Games Up. They were very friendly, very nice to provide me with a review copy so that I could talk to you about Maracaibo. So Maracaibo came out, as I was saying, last year. This is a Euro game by Alexander Pfister. Like I said in the unboxing, I hadn't played any Alexander Pfister game previous to Maracaibo, so this was my first experience with a Pfister game, and I was quite surprised. I was quite surprised and well surprised in a good way with this game. Honestly, I was expecting something way more heavier, not a Lacerda game, but a heavier game. And I mean, it is a thinky game, but not as heavy as you might have thought it would be if you haven't tried a Pfister game. If you have, I've heard it has a lot of similarities with other games. This is kind of like his best of. It picks up on the better mechanics of each of his previous games from what I've heard online, and it kind of compiles it into this best of from Pfister. And it is a spoiler alert, it is a very good game. I very much enjoyed Maracaibo, but we're going to go through a few points here. I'm going to try to keep these reviews a little bit faster. Well, not that they're too long, I think, the previous ones, but maybe focusing on a few more central points. So I'm going to start off the review with the setup, which is the first thing you're going to do when you play Maracaibo. You're going to set up the game, and I'm going to start with what I think it's my least favorite part of the game. I think it's the bigger fault, but it has a two-way. Well, it's a two-sided argument here, and I'll explain why. So setup is like I said, it's very sluggish. It takes quite a while. There's a lot of pieces to set up. So when you're preparing this board right here, you're going to be randomizing a lot of stuff. So you're going to be randomizing which actions you can take on each town. If you don't know the game, maybe I should start from there. So if you don't know the game, in Maracaibo, you're going around in the Caribbean, okay? This is kind of well, not exactly a rondel, but it's sort of a rondel. You're going around there's a lot of stops where you can stop on your journey. It's not exactly a worker placement, but well, it kind of is and it isn't. You have a choice when you're going around. You can stop at a port, do that action, or stop at another port, or you can just bypass that port completely and just stop on somewhere along way up ahead on that track. Now you're going to be playing against an Althama, which is also going to be stopping at those locations. So when I say you can stop or not, maybe there's a very important spot, a port way up ahead on the path, and you really don't want to lose it, so you're going to be skipping a few ports and just going directly to that one, which is essential to you. So in that way, it's, well, I would say maybe you can call it a worker placement. Not exactly, but I can see the argument being done to say it is. So yeah, that's basically it. You're going around on this track. There's then a lot of stuff that you can do. There's a place right here at the bottom of the board, which is the adventure track, where you're going to have a little pawn. He's going to go around here on this track collecting some stuff. I've actually switched these. So there's points to be had, money, upgrades, cards, reputation. You can win a lot of stuff here on this track. It's kind of like a jack of all trades track here. You also have a reputation track right here on the top, reputation that you will also be gaining by playing cards, stopping at a few ports, so some of the actions will also give you reputation. So this is basically it. This is like a point salad game where you're going to go around the Caribbean trying to maximize and optimize your turn as best as you can so that you can win some points, recruit some crew to your ship, which will also give you points, reputation. Again, all of the elements here are pretty much interconnected. They're all helping you achieve something in one of the tracks, either the reputation track, the money track, the point track, directly on the point track. You'll be doing some combat as well. Maybe they'll help you do the combat, maybe they'll help you here on the adventure, let your pawn, you know, move a few more houses, more spaces. So yeah, it's pretty much a big point salad, okay? And the gist of it, the central point, is your ship. You're gonna go around here on this rondel. Now, like I was saying previously, the setup. So all of these ports, or at least most of them, will be randomized actions. You have these little tiles here. You're going to randomize them depending on your player count. If you're playing solo, there's not so many tiles that you'll be randomizing, but they're fine, It's not such a limited amount. And you're going to be placing them randomly here on these ports. So this action might show up on one game, it might not show up on the other one, and even if it does, it can be in a different port, and that's going to make a difference. So yeah, a lot of randomization here on the ports. But again, it's going to slow your setup. Also, you have to place a lot of wooden pieces, and that's a bit of a bummer. You're going to be placing some discs, some wooden discs here. I don't know if you even can see it. They're pretty small. Here on your ship, you're going to have this board right here. It's like your player dashboard. Your tableau, let's call it like that. It's a ship where you're going to be removing these discs. As soon as you remove all discs from one spot, you have that upgrade. You got that bonus here on your ship. It's also the place where you'll be placing your cards. I'll talk about that in a second. Also, your main objective, you have like a goal card for the game. It's going to kind of dictate what you want to prioritize. That's going to give you a bit of replayability as well. So again, you have to set up this. Then you're going to have to set up your Authoma, which is called Jean. Not too much of a hassle. You can set her up, or him, I don't know if it's a him or her, fairly quickly. It's okay. My main concern is with the cards. And this is just like I think I talked about in Runebound. There's a lot of cards in this game. Let me just kind of show you. This is just one pile of cards. This is not all the cards that you will be... And this is a deck, okay? I'm not talking about all the cards in particular. This is the deck like of crew members, people you can recruit or help you in your cause. You have a priest, you have galleons, you have plantation owners, carpenters, like a whole bunch of variety right here, kind of like the Agricola deck. There's a lot of variety. You'll be mixing these cards because you won't be You won't be using all of these in a game. You'll be taking 40 out of this deck, random, and then you'll be meshing them with a few from this deck, okay? So there's a lot of setup with these cards because you will be giving out 8 to you from one of the decks. Then you'll be again randomizing 40 out of this one, and then after giving 8 from the other one, you'll be mixing them all up and then placing them right there. If you want to play another game right after that one, either you use the same cards, or you're gonna have to again split the decks because they're not the same. These cards are different. It's deck A, deck B. You're going to be splitting all of the cards and randomizing them all over again, just so that you can form this deck once more. So either you're doing games back to back with the same deck of cards, or you will be well, not wasting time, but it's going to take a while to reset that particular deck. That's a bit of a bummer. I did play a few games back to back. That shows how much I enjoyed the game. I think once or twice I just went with the same deck because I really didn't want to bother myself. There's a lot of variety coming from other places. There's also a deck right here. I don't know if you can see it on the top. These are buildings that you can also acquire during your gameplay. These will also be randomized. They're not the same every single game. There's 4 different ones that will be in play during a game, and you have 4 other ones. So not the most, not the biggest difference from game to game, but still it is quite different because you can't see them all at the same time. You're going to see them one at a time from round to round, and maybe well, if you see one, you might do something that trying to maximize. If you buy that building, trying to maximize what the points that it offers. Each of them is related again to a different track, a different aspect of the game. But in the second round, if another one shows up and, oh, okay, this one looks way more tasty, your plan might change, okay? So they do bring, again, more replayability to the game. And that's my second point here. It's the replayability of the game. And I would love to give this, so setup is a negative, definitely. Replayability, I would love to give it a plus. And it kind of deserves it, but I'm going to give it a neutral point there. And why? Because that replayability comes again at the cost of a very sluggish setup. If the replayability wasn't leaning so much on the work you have to do while setting up the game, it would definitely be a big positive. But as it is, I really can't give it a positive. For me, it's neutral because even though I think it's a very good replayability, there's a lot of different stuff, and I'll talk about a few other points here regarding that. It's still, I mean, it really leans on that sluggish setup, and so for me, that is a neutral point. So continuing with the point of replayability, I want to address just a few, two other points, sorry, here. One is, I didn't talk too much about your player board, your tableau here that you will be building. This is, even though it seems pretty limited at first, it does offer you a lot of options, and I'll just mess up all of my table here, but hopefully it'll help me show you things. So you have, I don't know if you can see this, you have quite a few of these yellow circles. This is the spots you're going to try to upgrade, okay? There's a lot of upgrade options here. At the start of the game, honestly, there's not much replayability. I usually go for the same stuff, having more cards in my hand, being able to pick the cards I need. That's very important. But at the mid to end game, this is going to change a lot. The upgrades that I choose are very different from game to game. So this brings you a lot of replayability. You have an upgrade here that is mainly focused on combat, because you can do combat here on this game as well. The combat is mainly like a mechanic to get you reputation. Here with the 3 nations that are present on the Caribbean, France, Spain and England, okay? And you have an upgrade or 2 right here actually that help you get it, that influence, help you in the combat. You have an upgrade here with village actions, which means that if you don't end up on a city, you just go to a small, the cities are the ones that have these big tiles. You can go to a port, do smaller actions. You have an upgrade that helps you with those village actions as well, those smaller actions. You have upgrades just for points, you have upgrades for money, you have upgrades that actually help you move along this track right here. So there's a lot of replayability, well, not replayability, but variation that this tableau offers as well. Again, your goal card is going to also kind of, well, not dictate, but it's going to have its weight delineating what you're going to try to achieve in that game. So this is something that you'll choose more to the end of the game. So you can actually get your hand of cards right here. You can see if you have cards that are going to help you, again, moving this explorer track, or maybe cards that help you get money faster if you have some helpers. Some of these they're not exactly crew members, but these are people that you can place here on the board. If you stop in a port and you have one of these, you can actually do their special action. So maybe there's cards that are actually good if you have a lot of people spread out here on the Caribbean. So again, a lot of different stuff that can happen. And this one right here, this gold card is called Honor. It's going to give you rewards by the number of quests you do. I haven't talked about quests. There's a lot of stuff here to talk about. Also, it's going to reward you for having a lot of influence in 2 different nations. So France, Spain, England, you gotta not bet all your horses in just one, spread out that influence a little bit, which again, it's going to translate into points at the end of the game. Or the Explorer track, it also rewards you for going along here on this track, not just sitting idly at the start. So yeah, this card right here, it's going to help you dictate what you're maybe prioritizing during the game, because you can't really just do one thing here. You gotta go for a bit of everything. Even though I think one of the aspects of the game is that the influence, the thing you get by doing combat, is a little bit too strong. I think if you don't go a bit too heavy, leaning a little bit more here on the influence, you might not do as good. But we'll talk about that as well in a while. So another point of the replayability is this. You might use this or not. So Maracaibo has a sort of a story mode, okay? This is actually pretty different. I don't think I have other Euros with, if I do, there's not a lot of them, that throw in a bit of a story element to the game. That's something very cool. I've heard some people actually talking as a negative of the game. I can't say it's a negative at all. It's always going to be a plus for me. Why? I mean, let's pick up an example like Terraforming Mars. Terraforming Mars has no story. You're playing a game. It's you pick up your cards, you play your game, it's done. It's what, the third game right now rated in BGG. Let's say Terraforming Mars now had, a story. It's a really simple one, nothing special. It's not going to win you any awards. It's just a little snippet of a story while you are playing your game. Is it going to stop being the third game just because it has a story that isn't great, but it's just, something that is added to add a little bit of flavor and flair to your gameplay session? No, of course not. And I can't hold it back to Maracaibo either. It's actually pretty cool that they're trying to incorporate the story here on the game. It's going to add a variety, because this is something I even forgot. Besides all of the stuff you're doing here, you also have these tiles, which are quest tiles. So these are things that will be spread around in the Caribbean, also in some ports. Maybe you can find quests. You can also stop at a place that has a quest. You deliver a few goods and you do the quest. You take the tile, it might give you points, it might give you money. This is all very interconnected. So yeah, the story basically is going to be distributing quests. These are the story cards. They tell you where you might put a quest, so in which number, space number you're going to put a quest. There you go. Now you have that little bit of story. It tells you the reason why that is there. Maybe, I don't know, there's a... I don't want to spoil the story, even though it's not that great of a story. Let's say a boat is sinking and you have to take wood into that place so that they can fix the hull. For example, I'm just making it up. That might be one of the quests. So it's like little snippets of story. It tells you the reason why a tile is placed there. And yeah, it kind of gives you a reason to go there. It's interesting. It's not groundbreaking at all, but it's very interesting, and I appreciate it because there's a lot of different quest styles and the story is very long. I've played about 10 games of Maracaibo so far, I think, and I haven't finished the campaign. I kind of wanted to finish it before doing the review, but it's pretty long. And it's long because of, well, here's what I'm trying to explain why it's long. So it's when you pick up a chapter, so there's 12 chapters if I'm not mistaken. So each chapter has usually 4 phases. Some have not so many. So each phase will you will pass from phase to phase on each round of the game. So the game has 4 rounds, so usually the chapter is 4 phases because of that. Usually what triggers a phase change is you pick up this quest right here. Then you reach the end of that turn, that round of the game, and it asks, hey, has that quest been fulfilled? Yes. Then you can go on and pass into the next phase of this story chapter, and that's all fine. I'm okay with those chapters where it's just pick up a quest and you're moving on. You know that at the end of each game round you're going to be moving around the story. Why? Because if you don't pick up the quests, well, actually the automa can skip it. So it's not certain that the automa will pick up the quest because they also go around and pick up these tiles. It's not guaranteed, but it's highly probable. My main gripe with this is, and this is something that the story brings as a negative, is there are a few chapters that aren't to go deliver a good to pick up a tile. You'll actually have to deliver a lot of goods there. You'll actually, it's like you were doing an upgrade to your ship. So you're not taking a story tile to yourself, you're placing one of those discs right there, okay? And you have to go around a few times to do that. And the automa totally skips those tiles. So while he doesn't ignore these and he helps you move along the story, the other ones he doesn't. And while these do give you some good upgrades, the other ones, I think personally, they really don't. So there was a few times where I had those tiles here on the board, and it was really dragging me in the story. I couldn't get the story moving along because it was so suboptimal stopping there just to get the story going. And since the automa didn't interact with it, it took me like a full game just to get one of those tiles out of here. So that really dragged the campaign down for me. And I think maybe something could be done to maybe accelerate that a little bit or give you a few better rewards. I don't know. That's my only complaint here with these legacy tiles, okay? Or not these legacy tiles, sorry, with the story aspect of the game. Another cool aspect of the story is the legacy tiles. So the story sometimes is going to pick up, I just picked this one up, I don't want to spoil this too much. So these are changes to the game board itself. So as the story goes and moves along, maybe if you didn't complete the quest when the story wanted you to, you're going to pick up one of the legacy tiles and you're going to actually change the state of the board. Say cities can disappear, there can be a plague, there can be a huge storm and just swipes the city off of the map. You're going to be placing this big tile right here on top of the city, and now this isn't well, it's a port, but it's not a city, so it's way worse than it was before. Or maybe the other way around, maybe some kind of civilization is blooming on one of the spaces and actually a new city pops up. So these legacy tiles are pretty cool, and again, they're tied to the story, so how can this be a negative? It really isn't. This is definitely a plus for me yeah, that part of the game. So with that said, how is the game, how does it feel to play the game? The game is, like, as I said, pretty easy to grasp and pretty easy to play. I thought I was diving into a super heavy game. It is not. It is not. It's really, really very accessible. Game mechanics are all very understandable. I read the rulebook once. I don't think I ever went back to it. The game gives you a player aid. I've maybe consulted this like twice at the start, like for two little small doubts I had. Apart from that, it is super simple to play. You're really going around and there's not much to it. I mean, everything is pretty intuitive to understand. Very easy to grasp, at least in my opinion. I thought it was going to be way heavier. It is not. It has a lot of iconography, but everything makes perfect sense. So yeah. Simple game mechanics, so the ease of play for me is definitely a positive. The only negative about the ease of play, I would say, is the combat. Combat might be a little bit strange at the beginning. When you're doing combat, you're picking up one of these tiles right here, and they have a lot of numbers. So they have like a 4 in France, a 2 in Spain, and a 3 in England. You kind of have to figure out. This is mainly with the automa as well. Figure out who the automa prefers to side with during this combat, and then do all of the math. There's a bit of too much math here with the combat, but I think I had issues with this in my first 3 games. But from there on out, I mean, it's just intuitive. You really can grasp it. And after your 3rd game, maybe 3 games is even too much. But let's play it safe. Take about 3 games to completely understand the combat and never having to go and look at the player aid or the rule book, and yeah, you'll be flying through all of the combat actions. So yeah, combat is the only thing about ease of play that I would say is a bit of a negative, and this is mainly playing solo because Jean fights a lot and you kind of have to figure out his or her preferences when siding with one of the nations. Okay, so actually, let's talk a little bit about Jean, because this is the solo review. Jean is amazing. And this is one of the reasons why I adore this game solo. This is almost a perfect Authoma for me. And why is that? Because Jean, she doesn't... There's a few games that people love, and I don't like it so much, like Viticulture, where the Authoma isn't really doing much. It's just going to a place, blocking you, getting free stuff. Sometimes, I don't know. Jean plays like a human would. She does things just like you would. She moves to ports. She does upgrades, so she picks her little circles here. She does a ship upgrade. She places it here on this port. I didn't mention it, but if there's already a disc there, no one else can upgrade their ship on that port. So she steals those upgrades. She moves along the ports. She steals your quests. Oops, this moved along. She steals your quests. What else? She does exactly what you do. It's exactly the same. She scores a little bit different, yes, but in the end, it's like you were playing a human opponent, because you kind of... It's not like you can play her a bit too much. Like there are a few games where you can play the Authoma. You're not playing the game, playing the Authoma, forcing him to do exactly what you want. I don't like that. That doesn't happen here. You can kind of predict where she might go, because you have these Authoma cards. They are going to be moving her along here on the Caribbean as well. She will either move one space or two spaces. So if a lot of one space actions have come out, you can kind of predict, okay, she's going to move twice. But, so she's probably skipping this port right here. So there's so many decisions that come from that. Is that port, is it important to me to go to that stop right there, that place? If it isn't, well, she's going to move too. She's going to be really fast. And the faster player here on the round is going to finish the round pretty fast. So if you haven't done what you needed to do before Jean gets to the end of the rondelle here, that round isn't going to be good for you. So you kind of have to play with that. How fast is she going to be? What do I really need to do? What are my priorities here on this turn? Do I just want to maybe... you can also maybe think of, okay, I don't want her to get ship upgrades, because she's going to be maximizing the points she gets from each round, successive points. So maybe that's what I want to do. I want to stop her from upgrading. So I'll go to the port where I think she's going to stop, and then I'll upgrade my ship there. Even if she stops in that place, she won't be able to do ship upgrades, and that will kind of slow down her point count during the whole game. So there's so much stuff you can do, so much things you can think of. You can go for the quests, because quests are worth a lot to her. Maybe you want to steal all the quests, not let her have them. But then here you have the Explorer track. If she is way up ahead in front of you, she's going to rack up a lot of points. So you don't want her to go too far ahead. The ideal is to be in front of her. The influence track, again, if she gets way up there and you don't, with one nation, she's just going to take up so many points. So yeah, there's so much stuff that you can do. It's amazing, and the way she does it is just, again, like a human player. She's not getting too many stuff for free. I mean, sometimes, yes, a card says, hey, give her a quest just because you pick up one from the supply, not one from the board. But usually she's interacting with the board, with the stuff that's right here that you know that you can also pick up and that you can prevent her from getting. And that, for me, is how an Authoma should be. It should be using the board, it should be using the game state, interacting with it, removing stuff that you might have gotten as well, and not just getting freebies like, hey, give 10 points to the Authoma just because. Again, that happens here, but it's way shorter than in other games. While other games just give you Authoma stuff, here it's not really like that. So I really appreciate Jean. I love to play against him or her. I think it's a super well accomplished Authoma, and please, Mr. Pfizer, do more of these, because it's really a good Authoma. I don't know if it's my favorite, but it is definitely up there, top 3 of all the Authomas I've experienced. So while the Authoma gets a big plus thumbs up for me, it is, again, one of maybe the best, my favorite aspect of the game. Now not so much positive. Balance. Balance, I think, is not perfect. It's a little bit off onto little aspects of the game. Again, like I've mentioned previously, I think the influence track here is a bit too much important. There's a lot of points that you can do here, and you really can't ignore it. You kind of have to always go for this a little bit. Another thing is the prestige buildings. Those buildings that you place here, right here on top, where you're showing one per turn. I think there's a few of them that are really, really strong, and if I see them, I immediately want to play for those, okay? I want to get them and I want to maximize them, because some have a point cap, others don't. There's one that gives you 2 points per ship upgrade. There's a lot of points that you can do with that. And there's no cap here with this. I don't know why. So there's a lot of points that you can just rack up with this prestige building. There's one that gives you per synergy token. This is 3 points per token. This is really hard to get a big score on. So the balance between these two is really bad, in my opinion. There's one, this one is so good. For leftover figures, these little guys that you don't place on the board, you just have them on your ship, because you can use them in combat as well for combat points. And you also have a little track here on the ship for when you do combat, you can improve those values that I showed you previously on the tile. So for each value that you don't use in each of these little dudes, you get 2 points. This is the best one for me by a long shot. It's not even close. Every time I see this, I just pick this up. Yes, this could help me in combat where, I mean, it's important to go up the track. But again, it's way better. I can just go up the track without using these points and just pick up this prestige building. And there's so many points to be had with this. And this kind of leads me to the Cathedral, which is the main bummer here with this deck. This prestige building, I don't get this prestige building. It gives you, at the end of each game turn, you're going to have static points and static money that you'll always get, okay? And there's a track for the money. If you're getting a lot of money, you'll also be getting points. The Cathedral basically is going to give you those points, will double those points you get at the end of the round. Or actually at the final scoring, sorry. But for this to be worthwhile, you had to be like way more than middle on this track. And this track is really hard to move on. It's mainly boosted by cards that you play from your hand. I haven't even talked about this. Jesus Christ, there's so much stuff. But it's actually more expensive. It's 25 gold, while the others are 20. And it's by far the one I think is the worst. So I don't get the balance with the prestige buildings. So prestige buildings, well, while balance is, it's fine. It's a positive. I mean, it's just I think the influence is a bit too strong here on the game. But the balance on the prestige buildings specifically is a negative. These are not very well balanced in my opinion at all. So yeah, that's game balance. All in all, positive, although it's not an A+, it's just, well, an A-, let's call it like that. So I haven't talked about the cards, have I? So very, very quickly, you're going to be having cards in your hand, you're going to be playing cards. Well, not playing, as soon as you step on a port, and if you want to do a ship upgrade, each port will ask you for a good that you can deliver, which are these symbols right here. So you can use a card to deliver a good on a port and just upgrade your ship, or you can actually buy these cards with paying the cost here, and then you won't be using this section, you'll be using this one. It's bonuses that you'll be getting. You place this card on your ship, it's someone maybe you recruited, and that's going to give you a constant bonus. And these cards there are again so many cards, so many effects that they provide, so it's a lot of replayability in each game because they're really, really, really different. Okay, so we've talked about a lot of stuff. I haven't talked about components. I usually do, but well, it's a regular Euro, completely neutral. I wasn't expecting much better components than this. It's actually a good-looking game. Unlike Blackout Hong Kong, I have to mention it. This one is colorful. It looks nice. It's exactly what it should be. I'm fine with it. It's a neutral point from me. So, with that said, all of that said, I hope it's enough. let's just go to my final thoughts about the game. I think this game is amazing. It's one of my favorite Euro games. Again, very boosted by the performance of Jean and her deck, how that is handled. I didn't even mention it, but she has also A, B, and C cards that you can mix up. You can change the difficulty from game to game, and there's also different things that you will pursue from game to game. There's B cards that focus on combat, others on quests, other on the explorer track. Okay, so she is going to be focusing on different things as well from game to game. She really gives life to this game solo. I mean, I just adore it. I adore her performance. Now the game itself isn't perfect, and that's why it doesn't get a perfect score. That's something different as well. I'm going to be scoring games right now. I previously didn't, but I'll just give you my score. This is in my personal ranking. How does this rank? So Maracaibo for me, while not perfect, it's a definite recommend for solo play. If you like Euro games, this is a no-brainer. This definitely is a no-brainer. I would totally recommend it. If you have previous 5-star games, I really can't compare it to those because I haven't played them. So I can only mention Maracaibo as a standalone 5-star experience for me. So from 1 to 10, Maracaibo is going to rank an 8.5 from me. Again, it's really good. There's a few aspects that could have been improved. Again, a little bit of balance. The setup really drags it down on this ranking. It's a bit of a bummer. I played my games. I left it set up, so I was playing almost back to back. As soon as I finished one, I kind of set it up for the other day, and then I went when I started playing, it was already set up. But I can see this even being worse for someone who plays a game, packs it all into this box, and then the next day has to unpack everything and set up. So yeah, it isn't higher in big part because of the setup. It's pretty slow and pretty sluggish. It really is, unfortunately. But again, that's kind of like the cost of having a big replayability in a Euro. This story, these story cards and the legacy tiles are really a bit of fresh air, and I so much appreciate them, and I think they're a plus here. They're not a minus at all. And so yeah, Maracaibo is going to get an 8.5 out of me. That's it. I hope this has been useful. Again, I said this was going to be shorter. It wasn't, so I apologize. I think this is going very long, so I'll shut up for now. Hope you enjoyed the video. We'll be back with more solo board games, more unboxings, more reviews, so stick around. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. We'll be having a lot more content, and hey, leave a like on the video as well if you enjoyed it. That's it from me for today. Thank you so much for watching and for sticking with me until the end of this video. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye everyone.